Alright, let's go through this Form SS-4, application for employer identification number. So a huge part of this form is basically filling out basic information, okay? And the rest is just some explanations of how to fill this form. So this form is a fairly easy one because, if you're applying for that, most of the time the whole business, the whole transaction is not even started. So basically, you fill out information, apply that, you get that. As simple as that, okay? But there are some of the tricky parts, what I call this like a classification part, because the type of entity do matter, okay? And also there are some gotcha I'm going to explain later, but I want to you just pay special attention when you fill this information. So first, the type of type of print clearly, okay? So basically, you type or print clearly. Really simple. You just fill in the information here because it's like really basic information, and it's really crucial. Okay, and I've known a lot of people who want to start a business and got the name wrong. Okay, and they have to find different form in order to correct it. It's just a huge hassle. Also, if it's involved a bank, okay, a bank is pretty harsh about it. And especially some of my clients are like international clients. So US bank, when they're doing their like know your client due diligence, and they got like a mismatch of a name, that's a major boo-boo, right? So so they're going to look into it, even though the countless emails and explain, you have to do tons of actual work. So do pay special attention when you just enter the basic information, right? Like a name of entity, trade and business. This is a really interesting one. If you like different from name on line 1, you enter this official legal name for your business, and then you can say, well, what about, say, I got a like a business called, ABC Enterprise, something like that, right? LLC, okay? But when you're doing your business, right? You build a website, you build your SS, or you build a specific products and then sell that around the globe. You even have a trademark of it. Then that name, the trade name, may be different from the legal name of the entity, the sort of run the business or offering the business. So, you know what? It's different from name on the line 1. You can fill it here. So, for example, it's like a ABC solution, sort of that. It's not like an ABC, enterprise or something like that. So it's like a different, two different name, but sort of connected. So if it's different, you fill that in. But most of the time, I think if you're just starting your business, most of the time it's exactly the same. So if it's different from the line 1, you feel that. If it's not, just don't worry about it. Right. So 3 is the executor, administrator, trustee, so care of name. This one is an interesting one, right? So basically, this is connected with here type of entity. Okay. Check only one box. So basically, you have to, as I said, there's like a lot of gotcha part is the classification part. You have to classify what kind of business that you are doing, and you have to apply for that specific. Okay, so basically, if it's a for estate, that's a executor, right? So basically, this is connected to here. So property partnership, personal treasury, specifically, or that estate. So so if it's estate, that's the executor. For the administrator is a kind of similar to executor, but it's appointed by court. Okay, when there is like no will, if some person unfortunately passed away, there is no will, no named executor. You know what? The court will, appoint an administrator for that. So basically, that's this two is connected to estate, and of course, the trustee is for a trust. Okay, so that's connected to here. So TIN for a grantor. Okay, so it's sort of these two need to add up. Okay, you can't choose one and then you choose a different. So that will be some sort of conflict. And then you know what? If you file this yourself, they will contact you. If they, is you use the third party designee, as I said earlier, mentioned in just the previous video, you through a third party, you apply this on your behalf, and then they're going to contact this person, right? Or this conflict doesn't really matter. Okay, whatever. And then care of name. So basically, use the when the correspondence or document need to be direct to a specific person who is responsible for receiving on behalf of that certain entity. Okay, so that's the take care of name. Okay, so you've got that, you fill that information. And then the basic is the mailing address, street address, city, state, zip code, all that. And of course, if it's foreign, you can still do that, but you need to follow instructions like this. Okay, but as I said, it's a little bit like, misunderstanding for a lot of people. If you yourself is a foreigner or non-US person, and you start a US company, right, your US entity, this entity is actually formed inside the United States, it's still considered the US entity, okay? Does not mean that you are a foreign person, right? You're non-US, non-resident, alien, something like that, right? And then you say, well, if I formally invest in US, that entity is like a foreign entity, it's not a foreign entity. Okay, that's formed in US, that's a US entity. Okay, I mentioned this countless time because a lot of clients actually are having doubts about this. So it's good to know. Okay, educational video, it's good to know. Okay, so the name of a responsible party. So basically, if that person responsible for this, you enter this name, and of course, a lot of people have the exact same name, right? So you enter that person's SSN, ITIN, or ITIN is for those person who have to file tax or have to use a identification number but don't have SSN. In that terms, they use ITIN, or you know what? You can also use a company, right? The EIN, so employer identification number for that specific company. Okay, and then these two need to be added up. Okay, they need to be matching. All right, so and LLC, yes or no? Yes, then you can enter the number of the LLC members, and yes, whether was organized in the United States or not, yes or no, right? So basically fill here, not here, sorry. Yes or no, so it's basically chat box. Pretty simple, and then you just enter the type of entity. This needs to match up above, and when incorporated, reason of applying and all that. Just choose whatever reason that you want to apply this, and then the rest of it, just pretty simple. You just follow this specific order. So for most of my clients, it's a kind of like to start a new business, okay? And of course, if you invest in already existing business, that also involves some of the complications. But most of the time, it's just starting a new business, and then you just date business start to acquire date. Just feel that you start the business or you acquire that, okay? And for the closing months of accounting year, most of the business is December, okay? Just like the natural calendar year ends is December. But if you're, for some reasons that your business is not matching the, of course, you can just say whatever, you input that specific. But my recommendation is that, just to follow the ordinary closing months of accounting year. Choose December because you don't want this exceptions of your business, so they will require extra scrutiny as well as extra implications. So you don't want to do that. This is just basically no employee expected skips. Line 14, if it's expected, just fill in all this. That really depends on different business, right? Our culture, household, or other, fill that information. So I think for most of small business, it's just like one person or like a really small number of employees. So that really depends on what kind of business. So depends on different scenario, right? But in terms of the if you want to pay, you have to pay your employee, okay? If you hire an employee, you have to pay. So basically, this 14 is like a decision of whether you need to file Form 944 or Form 941, okay? So basically, 944 is that if you say, hey, I just want to do the annual filing, For employment tax, if an employee qualified, of course, there's a big catch here. You need to qualify based on this like low the tax liability threshold. Okay, so basically, if you qualify that, you know what? They simplify this procedure for you. You just need to file that annually for the employment taxes, and of course, the form 941 used for quarterly filing. Okay, so that's like kind of like a serious business activity. You have to file quarterly. It's a lot of paperwork. Okay, so if you just want to start a really small business, that's a lot of paperwork. And of course, if you do not meet the criteria for the form 944, you have to file form 941. Okay, so that's basically you give the information and choose one form that you want to file. And this is just some classification. Okay, so I consider this as also kind of a secondary sub classification. So what kind of business activity that you're expecting? You might think, well, I might do this and I might do that. Well, just choose one. Okay, just choose one that you think you most of the time and resources going to involve in. And you might ask, does the classification matters? Okay, I personally think I don't know how IRS like inside works. Okay, but I personally think that first, the general rule of thumb is that if you want to feel this, you have to feel this truthfully. Okay, but the just to be honest, the business do change. Okay, when you apply this, and then later you may do another completely different business. Okay, but while you are doing this, you're just doing that truthfully. Okay, and find the most probable thing that you're going to involve in. Okay, and of course you can indicate the principle of merchandise sold, specified construction work done, produce or service provided, all that. So basically, if you don't know how to classify things, you can always choose other and specify, give you the best description. Okay, so I personally think is kind of for this like a record keeping and statistics purpose, but if you like classify the vague or too like wrongly, you may not immediately impact things. Is just the major usage of this SS4 is for applying the EIN number, but yeah. So the general rule of thumb is just do that truthfully and do your best to provide the information. If you don't know, choose others and provide more information about what they're actually doing. You don't want to be lying in front of the IRS. You want to tell them the truth, what kind of business that they want to do. Okay, so yeah, and you don't want to involve troubles. So for like you intentionally say, well, this field got like a low tax treatment, so I'm going to choose that. Right? Don't do that. Okay, so just feel whatever you actually do. And for this last one, okay, so this is really important because, for example, if I file like a rally, right, and I want to do that again, I want to correct some information. So if you already receive the EIN number, they want to know, okay, they don't want to, yeah, they just need if to know that if you already been issued an EIN number, okay, if you've been issued, you provide your EIN here, okay. So so basically, is that they need to understand whether I need to issue you a new EIN number or you already have a EIN number, right? So basically, it's like ensures the entity, right? Your entity is like one entity, or individual do not receive multiple EIN unnecessarily. So basically, yeah, just a little bit double check here.